Hello, I'm Lucy Craig on behalf of Girl Spring, and we're here with Ashley Jones, Alabama's Poet Laureate. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good. So you are Alabama's Poet Laureate. Just to kind of start off, what does a Poet Laureate do? What responsibilities do you hold?
Yeah, everybody asks me this question because nobody really knows what a Poet Laureate does at all. But basically, my job is to be the ambassador for poetry for the state of Alabama. So that means that I represent the art form. I do workshops, give readings, do interviews like this one. And I try to represent our state even outside of Alabama. So when I travel to do readings and other sorts of events, I'm sort of spreading the gospel about Alabama's poetry scene. So that's pretty much what I do. And it's a 4-year term. So 4 years of serving the state.
That's a lot of ground to cover
Yes.
in 4 years to be a representative of all that Alabama has to offer in literature and poetry. Could you tell us about your journey to becoming the Poet Laureate? Like, what was one of your biggest hardships? What have you had to go through to get to this point?
Well, even though I'm the youngest Poet Laureate of our state, I've been writing for a super long time. I started writing poetry when I was 7 years old.
Wow.
And I'm 31 now, so if you're a math person, do the math on that. But it's been that many years of writing poetry. And I began in the second grade. I recited a poem to my class called Harriet Tubman. Not by me, it's by Eloise Greenfield. And I remember reciting that poem and I felt all of my insecurities fall away. I was a very shy child back then, not so much anymore, but back then I was very, very shy. And I also had enlarged tonsils. I don't know do you have tonsillitis? Have you had it before?
I had to get rid of mine.
Me too. Me too. So mine were just causing all sorts of trouble, and I hated the sound of my voice because it was so just like sick sounding. But when I stood up there to recite this poem, I remember just feeling powerful. I felt very in touch with myself, with my Blackness. And I knew that poetry was the thing that brought me that strength. So since then, I've been writing, forever. Since that day, I've been writing poetry.
Wow.
So it's been that long of a journey, learning how to write, attending school. I attended this school, actually, the School of Fine Arts, from 7th through 12th grade. I got my undergraduate and graduate degrees in creative writing. I've been publishing for a while. So there's been a lot of just work to it, which is not easy. I mean, I love to write, but writing is hard,
Consistency, that's hard.
Exactly. You have to keep at it. And I would have to say that the hardest thing for me has been just listening to my own voice and knowing that what I have to offer is worthy. Going through formal education as a Black artist, oftentimes you're one or one of few in the room. And so you have to sort of remember and remind yourself that what you're saying does mean something. Because sometimes, you'll be in the workshop and people will ask you questions or they'll question what you're saying in ways that they don't question other people. So that can kind of wear on you a little bit.
That's interesting.
So that's kind of been the hardest thing. And, being political as I am, I mean, it's hard to get away from the politics in my work. That definitely made me nervous, going up for this position because I didn't know if people would not want me to serve because of my political leanings. So
interesting. Yeah, and in Alabama, it's difference in opinion and stuff, and wanting to express yourself, be true to the values that you hold. Sounds incredibly difficult. We appreciate it. And so you're not only the Alabama's Poet Laureate, but as you mentioned, you're the youngest, and you're the first Black Poet Laureate Alabama has ever had. And so, how do you feel you've reached such a big milestone? How do you feel like you got there? Do you feel like any pressure with this position to hold stuff that you didn't know you would have to hold?
Yes. I definitely didn't think when I was a little old lady, Ashley, I didn't imagine that I would be the first anything. I thought, by the time I'm older, all these first things will be over with,
Right.
And when we think about, I am the first Black, but I'm also just the first person of color, period.
Wow.
There's never been a person of any color other than white who's been the Poet Laureate of our state.
It's incredible.
In the 92 years. Like, that part really still blows my mind.
Shocking.
It's been almost a century and I'm the first one. It shouldn't be that way. So I feel pressure. I cannot lie to you. I definitely feel a lot of pressure, to represent the state in general, even if I wasn't the first anything. But being the first person of color, I feel like I have a huge responsibility to keep the door open. After I'm done being Poet Laureate, I want us to continue on a path of inclusivity. Right. I hope that, there's no longer 92 more years where somebody can say, oh, I'm the first this. We got to let other people serve. Our state is so multifaceted. It's not just one race. Right. So, yeah, I do feel a little pressure.
It's a lot. What you said about keeping the door open, it's interesting. That's a lot to hold. That's a lot for one person, and it's in such that's such a long period of time too that you've been waiting. The firsts are interesting, how we're only now coming to the point where the firsts are happening. Right. It's been a long time. So what made you want to become a poet in general? And then, you moved into being a teacher, and not all people who are experts in their area are able to convey these messages and teach these messages.
Say that again.
How'd you get to that point?
Well, I think I've always liked teaching. In high school, when I was here at ASFA, we did summer camps and outreach at different schools. And it was then that I really started to understand what it felt like to teach. I mean, it's scary. Again, I can't lie to you. It's very scary to get up in front of anyone, but especially teenagers. Right. Good Lord.
We're scared.
Yes.
We're scared.
Yes, you are. Very scary. But I noticed early on that I really enjoy seeing that discovery process. Right. I remember being, 16, 17 and really hearing my own voice develop. And that was so magical to me. And so as a teacher, I love seeing my students have that moment. I love being able to show them different kinds of poets and writers and help them to see themselves reflected as well. That's huge for any student to look at a published author, if they want to be a published author, to look at a published author and see that someone who's like them made it. So I try to make sure as a teacher that whatever I'm teaching is reflecting everybody I possibly can. So I teach writers who are on the LGBTQ plus spectrum. I teach writers who are Black, who are Native American, who are Asian American, whoever I can get my hands on, just so that students understand they can be whatever it is they want to be. And they can have that magical discovery moment, without feeling like, oh, well, I'm going to be the first, Right. So, yeah.
So what's something that you wish someone had told you before you began writing and embarked on the journey that you're on?
I think maybe I wish someone would have said, you're going to be okay. Yeah. All of us, whether we're artists or not, it can be difficult just growing up. Puberty is hard. Yeah. It's very difficult. It's weird. To imagine that you're going to come out of even that experience okay. Right. Everything just seems so upside down. And, if somebody had sat me down and said, Ashley, I know you're weird. You know you're weird. And that's all right. You don't have to change yourself at all. Yeah. You are like you are for a reason. People are drawn to your spirit. You don't have to feel like, oh, nobody understands me. No one's going to like me if I don't act a certain way. Just be yourself. And it's going to work out. And once I learned that, and it wasn't until I was maybe in my mid-20s, which was not that long ago, because as I said, I'm 31. So it's a long journey, to self-acceptance. But once I learned that, man, life just opened up in a way that I couldn't have expected. So
it's beautiful. Thank you so much. We really appreciate all that you have had to say, and well-versed on paper, well-versed in person.
Oh, thank you.
So we really appreciate it, and I know I took a lot away from this, and I bet everyone who will watch this will as well. So thank you. This is Ashley Jones, Alabama's Poet Laureate. Thank you so much.
Thank you.